So once you have the imperial Cholas, this is from the 6th to the 12th century. You also have the Chalukyas. Now, to give a brief geography, and the boundaries of the kingdoms back then wouldn't coincide with present day state boundaries, or present day, because present day state boundaries are linguistic boundaries that we kind of artificially created at that point of time. Also boundaries were artificially created, but it wouldn't actually align with one another. So when I'm saying Chalukyas, most of them, most of their rule extended over present day Karnataka, I'm not fully correct here, because you see the kingdom growing, and then you see Pallavas attacking and then shrinking. So this is constantly happening. So there's no, like, we have the map of India now, and so if I ask you what is India, immediately you would have the map of India flashing in your head. But if you were a Chalukyan living in, let's say, the 8th 9th century, and if I ask you, so what is the extent of your kingdom, you would have no clue. Because the king, Pulakeshin or some other king, could have captured another territory just yesterday, and that would have become part of your country. So we cannot actually imagine the state or the kingdom in that particular land, or what citizenship would have. You don't have citizenship, you have subjecthood. So this the political scenario itself was different, because boundaries would keep on changing. You would have political alliances changing, which is similar to what we have today. So
a lot of bloodshed.
You're dialing it back to war, aren't you?
I'm just assuming that so many kingdoms
Yes.
changing, territories.
Yes, a lot of bloodshed. But so, for instance, if you look at Pulakeshin's history, and I am intentionally mentioning Pulakeshin because I really want people to look up Pulakeshin and maybe think of, let's say, an epic movie on. So he's called Pulakeshin and Pulakeshin. Because it's such an interesting character, and we're talking about Pulakeshin the second here. So he, after becoming king, and in order to become king, he had to fight off his. So his uncle, it could be his uncle or it could be his brother-in-law. We're not sure. A lot of historians assume that it is his uncle. And as soon as he came to the throne, he had to go to war against the Gangas, who ruled over northern Andhra Pradesh, and the Alupas. Now, just one generation ahead, his father had married into the Ganga dynasty. So one queen was from the Ganga dynasty, and another queen was from the Alupas. So imagine you actually have people in your family belonging to those dynasties, and now you're going to war against those dynasties, and he conquers those areas, and then he goes into war. Now, when I say goes into war, please do not imagine an actual battlefield. So he issues a threat against the Gujars, the Malwa kingdom. So they're called the Malla, the Malava. So this is the region around central India, central peninsula India.
And you're talking about Gujars and all, which is
Yes,
like, it's the same Gujars we know of in North India.
the Gujarat, Rajasthan
Okay.
area.
Okay, go on.
And he issues a threat, and because we do not have evidence in terms of documents or inscriptions about a war, we are assuming that a threat was, or a proclamation of war was issued, and because these kingdoms did not want to go into a war against Pulakeshin, because they knew that he was a military strategist. They knew that he had already conquered other kingdoms. He knew that two military adventurers who had come into his territory were dealt with very ruthlessly by him. So they accepted his overlordship. Now, but what happened here was that you had Harshavardhana ruling in North India at that point of time. Now, the Mallas or the Malavas, they had a enmity, or they had interfered with Harshavardhana becoming the king.
Where were they geographically?
This Harshavardhana or Malwa?
Malavas.
So in the Malwa region. Now, this is central India, parts of Madhya Pradesh, parts of Maharashtra, maybe some portions of Chhattisgarh as well. So now you had a problem that the Malava king had actually tried to intervene with Harshavardhana becoming the king, and they had upset Harshavardhana's father. So when the Malava territory became part of the Chalukya territory, they also inherited this rivalry with Harshavardhana, who's a North Indian king. And then Pulakeshin too, maybe for expansion of his kingdom or his empire, or because you had a pre-existing rivalry between the Malavas and Harshavardhana, and him inheriting that feud, went to war against Harshavardhana. And you have then a battle, and this battle has been called as the Battle of Narmada, because it might have been fought on the banks of Narmada. But then again, this is a title that we historians have given. They have not called it as the Battle of Narmada. We call it as the Battle of Narmada. But why do we say that there was a battle? Because you have referenced to a 6-year-long war between Harshavardhana and Pulakeshin II. And Pulakeshin II wins. So you have a South Indian king or a king from Deccan winning over the grand empire of Harsha. And this is mentioned, the Aihole inscription and a lot of other inscription, because this was understood to be one of the biggest wins that Pulakeshin II had. But then there's a very interesting reference from a later Rashtrakuta inscription.
What region did Harshvardhan rule over? North.
So
Himachal, Punjab,
yes.
all that. Okay. So Pulakeshin basically became the emperor of what we know as geographical India today.
No, he did not. Because he just won the battle, he did not extend his rule.
So just wanted to beat Harshvardhan.
Because Harshvardhana they were already fighting a war with Malwa, right? So he kind of inherited the war and he won the war. But he did not expand his rule.
So he let it go back to Harshvardhan.
No, Harshavardhana and his dynasty, and of course it was a big dent in Harshavardhana's power and the dynasty declined. But Pulakeshin II extended his rule up till Maharashtra. He didn't extend it beyond that. Now why? Because this would also require a lot of political machinery. You would need a standing army. So it would be a big burden on the state coffers. Now these are things that we need to think about when we think about war. You cannot just go and conquer a territory. To maintain rule over the territory, you would already need a pre-existing or money in your treasury. You would need army, which means that you would have to now recruit more people into your army. You would have to halt your agricultural operations. You might have to halt your temple building activities. Yep. So you cannot constantly be at war, right?
It's a pain to be able to handle a big country.
Absolutely.
At that point in history.
Yes.
It's so much to take care of.
No, there are rulers who did that, but it has to be done very strategically, and you cannot just because you won a war, you cannot actually extend rule.
If you enjoyed today's clip, make sure you check out all the other clips we've uploaded on this channel. You'll find a clip related to almost every single topic as long as you're willing to search for it.